What kind of fiction makes one look at schizophrenia? 1,000 readers become 1,001 psychopaths, but even so, everyone is still addicted to it. This book, is this year's popular online novel Tao Strange Fairy. So what is the book about? Can people be so obsessed? Let's have a chat together today. The protagonist Li Huang is a new era of the 5 good youth: parents love, girlfriend like, home is a house and field, life is endless, this only a little defect, is himself is a mental illness, he often appears hallucinations, through to a man-eat-man terror fairy world, and here or to be eaten that wave, but fortunately only illusion. The protagonist is also not panic, when they is playing VR. But is it really that simple? Zhu found that he could actually bring things from the world of Xiaoxian back to the real world. He could sell 40 pieces of jade jewelry in the real world. This is the protagonist of the moment, is to find the wealth password. This also used to think. Of course, it is to keep reselling the objects of the fairy world. This wealth is just around the clock, but it is really so simple? The protagonist discovers that this horrible fairy world is not an illusion, but a real world, and all his actions in the fairy world are synchronized in the real world, just like playing a VR game. When you punch in the game, you will also make the same actions in the real world. That is to say, the protagonist in the Xiaoxian world in front of the boss's set of sword output, in the eyes of real people is the protagonist with watermelon knife, meet people, although because of mental illness does not go to prison, but just beat the medical expenses. This home is mine also cannot carry. Well, the more he stayed in the fairy world to resell objects, the more serious his illness in the real world, which not only failed to make a fortune, his family even lost the house. So someone's gonna say, I'm not gonna travel? But no, because he doesn't have any control over whether he crosses or not, and he doesn't choose where he crosses. Here in the hospital, mother feed him to eat oranges, who want to kill him synchronous feed him to eat nails. 2 worlds share a life, one side died, the other side also did not, and there is a half-immortal master want to take him, this in order to live. The protagonist can only be in the leisure world to fight strange upgrade. Finally, the conflict broke out. In order to solve the half-immortal master's robbery, the protagonist with his teammates under the copy of the brush boss, but the protagonist just started to return to the real world. However, this boss is special. He can still see the figure of the boss in the real world. If he hangs up, his teammates will be destroyed. The protagonist, of course, grabbed the watermelon knife and chased it up. However, this scene in the eyes of everyone in the real world is a psycho in the middle of the road to catch who cut who. This is not over, the figure of the boss and the figure of a little girl in reality, this will be cut down, the boss is brushed, but the little girl also no, if not cut, the teammates in the leisure world will die. A train problem of the century is in front of him. On one side is the mother's bitter plea in a fresh life, on the other side is the experience of life and death of his teammates. Seeing this scene, the protagonist can only be a cry of pain. No, I can't tell, I really can't tell. However, do you think this is the end? The fairy world that the protagonist thinks is real, the doctor and his family are able to get scientific explanation to prove that the protagonist is a psychopath, everything is his illusion. Even if the author says at the end that the book is about the mental world of a psychopath, there is very reasonable evidence in the book. Can only say read this book, the level of a neurotic, the protagonist, the author and the reader, at least have to go crazy. This audio file was created by Panopreter Basic. You can download it at www.panopreter.com.